Okay, I know you're like, okay, he's probably going. Okay, this is a legalese. This is legalese MRA stuff. So if you don't want to hear MRA stuff, hashtag MRA. Gonna talk to Skinner a little bit. Oh, we got pink, baby. Okay, now this is going to Skinner. Now Skinner is about 95 years old, 98, 110. She still has an AOL account, okay? You're like, you know how like when people have an AOL account, you're like, okay, when was the last time you were on the internet? You're like, what? Skinner has an AOL account? Okay, why is Skinner important? Now Skinner is very, 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 very important. Skinner has been my lifeline to talk to my kids for over a year. She's a court-ordered visitor person, and she had very specific instructions to follow, and she didn't do them. And to this date, I still have not received a single phone call or email where she's initiated with me. And you're like, who cares? Skinner, hashtag, we got to talk about gluten and feminists. But here's the thing is, one thing that people don't realize about the MRA movement is what happens to men in civil trials. And a lot of times people don't care. When they think about gender equality, people reflexively think about women need help. You know, like women work cheaper. Like it's so hard for women in workplaces. I'm like, yeah, when women get pregnant, they can take off a year. Can men, when men have children, do they, like they don't work? Yeah, see, here's the thing is, part of this channel is I want to raise awareness of men's issues. MRA, that's all it is. Specifically relative to the civil system. You're like, I don't follow. You're like a feminist for a man. Okay, hashtag MRA. So this is going to Skinner. Skinner, I've been emailing her and she's been like totally, one time she's like, you've been wanting to see your kids for a year and you're getting kind of mad. And I'm like, well, because I want to see my kids and you're supposed to set that up, and why aren't you doing your job, and what penalties do you have, and are you violating 2503, and you know, do federally protected statuses, are they relevant to court experts? And you're like, well, and then why? And then the bigger question is, because I'm asking myself, is, you know, why were you selected over Brown, who Brown has more education, probably more, more awareness of Munchausen, and you know, I don't want to say a lesser, but you don't have the credentials that I think Dr. Brown has. And why was he was an expert, and we're not talking about his testimony, we're talking about not his report, but your report. And this is real funny with, you know, I knew Skinner, I don't know if she was getting older, but she's talking about how, you know, well, your son doesn't want to see you. Like, well, he's a minor in a divorce proceeding. I mean, do you not think that he's probably being influenced? And even if, you know, there's a lot of times that kids don't want to see their parents. I know there are times that that's called being a kid. And why are we deputizing minors? Like, deputizing minors? Yeah, but you know, Skinner was like letting my own son decide where he was going to spend his weekends. Like, he can trump a court order. And I'm like, I mean, we got to stop asking minors to make parental decisions. You're like, that's why you're so mean. I'm like, yeah, well, I guess I am mean, you know, because I don't think minors should be able to make parental decisions of where they go on the weekends, especially in a civil case. You're like, see, that's exactly the shit we're trying to. I'm like, yeah, but I think most human beings would look at a minor and go, should this person make decisions for their child? No, we're the parents. They're the children. You're like, that's why she doesn't like it. Well, yeah, she doesn't like that reality. Okay, well, great. Let's get court testimony. Let's do it. Let me have a 2503. Let me talk about my hearing for my Rule 11. You know, all I want is to see my children, see pictures of them, hear their voices on the phone. And then I would like to, I would like to have like my Rule 11 hearing. I'd like to have 2503, federally protected statuses. Are those relevant? I'd like to talk about the First Amendment. I mean, this is just regular stuff, right? Right? So And then we have to have broader discussions about how vulnerable men are to in civil cases. And oh, by the way, Skinner. Okay, this is directly to Skinner. Skinner, do me a favor. Google Texas Criminal Code 2503, and then Google whether you're responsible or you're violating that, which is technically in some cases a felony. Like in, which and I want to have that hearing where I can talk about family members violating 2503, and is that, will that be enforced? And if it's not going to be enforced, why is the family not going to be responsible for 2503? And then you're like, what? I know it sounds repetitive, but this is what the civil system is. And if this has been painful for you to watch for 5 minutes, this has kind of been the reality that I've lived in or that a lot of men live in for year after year after year after year after year. And my reality is, it's the reality of a lot of men in civil cases. This is why men just give in. They don't want to deal with it. They can't deal with it. They have businesses to run. Some cases they have new families to raise and provide for. And the civil system actually pushes out the biological father. Well, you know what my problem is, other than I got a big mouth, is that I fought for my kids. Dr. Skinner, or Mrs. Skinner, I don't think you're actually a PhD, but if you are, I'd love to see your CV. Holla, CV, PhD. Okay. This is my final comment to Skinner. Is number one, I want to see my kids. Number two, I'm acting in my own counsel. So if you quit your position or you denied this case, then you should have communicated with me, and I should have gotten the same courtesies that the co-counsel has been afforded. So if you're communicating with them, and then we're going to look at your emails. I'm going to talk about exactly the communications you've had with Anna McKim, that I was not CC'd on my own case, acting in my own counsel because I was divested of counsel. So here I am, just a regular guy fighting for my kids, divested of counsel, picking my own jury in West Texas. I've been trying to see them via court order through Skinner, who has an AOL address. You're like, this is nutty. I'm like, yeah. Again, this is the realities of the civil system for men, and nobody speaks about it. They don't speak about 2503. They don't speak about, like even the money thing, like women have to provide receipts in order to modify a decree. I mean, that's just the law. My ex-wife didn't have to. I even brought that up. I said, hey, the law says over and over and over, if you're going to modify financial support, she has to provide receipts. But so much of this country lives in a world of 1980 where they just think that women are the victims, men are the bad guys, and that's the way law is practiced. And they forget to read that right next to what's in the best interest of the children is anti-discrimination language. And those there needs to be parity between anti-discrimination, federally protected statuses, and what's best for the children, while at the same time not lumping the children with one of the spouses, because what's best for the children in a lot of cases. In fact, I have a newspaper article right here where a local person here in California, a mother, it's on I'll take a picture of it and put it on my Twitter. It says, boy was focus of previous abuse charges. It's in the LA Times, August 25th. A mother hurt a child, ultimately killed that child. And it says that the boy was focus of previous abuse reports. But because there's such a reflexive attitude to just assume that every mother is a good mom, and all dads are bad people, and we really have to start having a broader conversation with how men are treated in not just the civil system, but even in a broader context. How the way men are treated, really just as we're a financial means and that's it. And nothing has really made gender issues more white hot for me than going through my own civil system case as a pro se litigant in a West Texas case. And now I see gender discrimination everywhere. But who I really think has the burden is men. Men. And if we start thinking about discrimination in terms of equity and equality, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. When we start really thinking, like for example, let me just kind of close out on this one specific example. My ex-wife, she literally told Dr. Brown she was trying to eliminate all my access. That's literally a quote from Dr. Brown. It's on his report. And then, and then the Rule 11 happened, and then she wanted to bounce out of that, and her only option is like, how do I really get rid of this guy? Well, she found a way, and she had enablers, and Dr. Skinner, in my opinion, my First Amendment opinion, I think you're enabling my ex-wife to prevent me access, which is a violation of Texas Criminal Code 2503. Again, I see gender discrimination everywhere. There's not a day that goes by that I don't, in some way, I'm not more sensitive to it. Like when Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook decided to take, some time off after he had his child. I'm like, that's so disruptive. I'm like, yeah, when a man wants to take 3 weeks off when he has children to start women do that all the time. And so, if we start thinking in terms of equality, and we start thinking of MRA as simply a group of people wanting equality, back to money. It's like, if the law says she has to prove with receipts, then she needs to prove with receipts. And when she insisted that I be examined by Dr. Brown, a very, very able, intelligent man, in my opinion, very thorough, I had to pay for it. Okay, and then I had to pay for my own report. And then everything in this whole, while my business was failing, I had to pay for every single thing of like her report, my report. If there was a burden financially, it was always put on me, and yet she was the only one employed. So how is that? That's not even following the law. And then when I wanted Texas Criminal Code 2503 enforced, again, that's the epicenter of a lot of things I'm talking about, is if Leah would have had one instance where 2503 would have been enforced one time, and I could probably show you, 3 years of violation, not just she, but her family and her, even Dr. Sheets and Dr. Sheets, both, I can show you 3-4 years of violations. The question is, will 2503 be, will it be honored and respected? Because here's the question, guys. In a civil case, we got to get out of Hollywood and the drama and the who's the victim. In the civil case, we have to say, okay, we have laws, and why have these laws? If we're not gonna live by these laws, why have them? Like, why have Texas Criminal Code 2503 as a felony if it's not going to be enforced? So, it's time for us to have some new discussions with how men are treated in civil systems. And again, Dr. Skinner, I'm going to send this to your AOL address. I so hope you get it. If your AOL doesn't work, I guess I'll have to go to the servers. And if not, what do I do? I don't know. But at the end of the day, Dr. Skinner, you have a very important role to play and a responsibility that's court ordered. And I'm asking you respectively, firmly, but respectfully, and hopefully even lovingly, with logic and reason, please honor that report. And I want to see pictures of my kids, and I would love to hear their voices on the phone. You have my contact information. Email me. You guys have a great day. Oh, by the way, Dr. Skinner, if none of this legal stuff mattered to you, will you tell Jordan and Caitlin how much I love them? Will you tell Caitlin I think about her every day? Can you tell Jordan I love him? Don't let me down, baby.